That Matt,
Ready when you guys are.
all righty then. Have a charter review committee meeting on Monday, 7/22, town manager's office at 5:30. And a roll call, we have Wally,
Here.
Matt,
Present.
Sandy.
Here.
I'm here, Louis, and we have the Bopane legal. And there's nobody else on Zoom right now, is there?
I can't see, so.
That's why I asked if you wanted to sit here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there is one, Brian's on.
It's Brian Brown is on Zoom. And we're expecting a couple more committee members, but we might as well,
How many members are there?
7.
Gage, me, Wally, Louis, Sandy, Rick, Bob. Peter, a member. What was that?
Is Peter a member?
No,
No,
but we do listen to them.
Well,
Okay, the front door's unlocked. So just pull that strap.
Yeah.
Or release the strap when you leave, and then this will work too on the way out.
So we have the minutes to review. 8/16, I still haven't got those.
So I mentioned it in the last two meetings, but I was building the minutes off the YouTube videos because I wasn't able to do all three things at once. Those minutes, or the video was lost due to a translation error from Stick to Peter to YouTube. So that video is gone. Can't find it, it's nowhere. In my memory is not sufficient enough to remember what we did last year. So
Okay, they aren't available, so we'll get them off the agenda.
I did provide everybody with the last two set of meetings, I believe.
Yep.
And 18 is the only one that we don't have.
We 10/18 or 10/14,
18.
because there was one in October that we did already approve.
10/4, I got, and
10/16 was. Yeah. There's one that was canceled, it's 9/8/2, 22, the canceled meeting.
Yeah.
So 10/18.
Okay, I'll look for the YouTube video on that one and that shouldn't take me long.
okay, 10/4 is the last one that I have.
And that's the one that I
9/20
just sent.
and
Yeah.
10/4 need to be approved.
So 10/4 and 9/20 are the ones that I sent you guys.
I skimmed them and any issue with them.
9/20 was pretty easy, and or so was 10/4. I mean, we started our readings, so there really wasn't much to put on there.
Right.
I
All right.
recommend that we approve 9/20 and 10/4.
I'll second that.
And anybody object? No. Unanimous. The next item is, I don't know what I was thinking. That's not coming to me. Review direction of council. 10/12 meeting.
I think you wanted to review what we talked about, because I got where you were going with that, but there really wasn't many comments.
Yeah.
Other than it looked nice and sent it to legal.
Yeah. 10/12 meeting, yeah.
The only question they had was about the pay increase. And if memory serves correct, Sandy stood up and said that came from the public members, to recommend that change. Because I remember me, you and Bob were really skeptical about recommending that.
Got voted down.
Right, but that was the order that was done. That's not this. So that's the next question is, do we want to remove that? Based off recent feedback from the public? Or should we just leave it as,
What did we put in for that?
I think we made it that it would be determined council for council.
Well, that's the way it is originally anyway. The way the charter reads, the council is the only one that can budget and change their pay. Anyway, saw that didn't work for us. So we're gonna see, still get very-
Another shocker.
just like people running for the council. Committee's gonna get fewer and fewer people showing up, yes. All right, then, we can review that change. I'm sure it's one of these that Dean's got.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so we changed it to the council will set compensation of the council through the budget process annually, which consists of budget workshops and 2 public hearings, was the exact change that we made.
Yeah, that's the process that we tried with the order and failed.
I thought with the order you guys had was to just increase it.
By so
overall
much
based on-
money, yeah.
Right,
So what you're saying is really the process that's in existence now.
I thought before that the charter said something along the lines of they'll paid so many cents per.
Well, we'll get to it as an item of review here.
Okay.
Which is the next review slide showing respond to questions posed by legal. And 2 emails, I got one of them here. So I'll let Dean take us down through.
Okay, before we start, I have sent you 4 drafts. Okay. And in each draft,
Copies.
are the explanation goes, that's the ordinance. You need drafts?
I'd like to have a paper one so I can mark.
I emailed those out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll take one too.
is this the same thing that I printed that you sent
Okay.
today?
We don't have to make any decision about that draft today.
So they may
Take
change.
your time and look at them. First of all, as far as the explanation for each change, I created that, I won't say out of thin air, but looking at your suggested change, you're supposed to have an explanation. I made one, so you need to review that. Now, each charter amendment, I did not take your language word for word. I made some changes. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but review it. For instance, on the qualifications of the counselors, you added a qualification that they be a registered voter. Well, that's what an elector is. To be an elector is to be a registered voter. So after elector, because obviously if the committee didn't understand that, general public may not. So I put in parentheses, registered voter of the town of Millinocket in parentheses. You know, just little changes like that. Okay. I think I've previously provided you with the definition of an amendment versus a revision. The difference is the amendment can be sent out to referendum by the council. A revision, you have to have a charter committee to review the entire charter, essentially do, I would say, what you folks, the process you've gone through, but you were not an official revision committee because you were not appointed as such. Okay. So having said that, go through the slides and talk about them briefly. Now, on your minor changes, applied the everybody,
Yes,
your gender neutral changes, you know, those are minor. As far as adding the town of Millinocket and state of Maine, you're dealing with the charter of Millinocket, Maine. So as presently worded, every reference to the town is already to the town of Millinocket. Because we couldn't reference these
Sure.
things to some of the towns.
You can't have Greenville in our.
Exactly. So If you want to make that change, that change. It's gonna make the document longer. It's gonna make it more wordy. The same with the state of Maine. We're in the state of Maine.
The only reason we changed that was to keep it consistent for the entire document.
Well, consistency is a goal, and it should be one or it should be the other. And I agree, some of your amendments, you didn't refer to town of Millinocket, you know, or you had counselor instead of, you had councilman instead of counselor, little things. The change from shall to will, once again, if that's a change you want to make, go ahead. The words are essentially the same meaning. And the reason I mentioned some of this is it is a requirement of the amendment process that we publish, usually in Brian's newspaper, every single change and an explanation. That is going to cost money if you're essentially changing every section of the charter to make it, town of Millinocket or gender neutral or whatever, okay? And, is that gonna be a huge cost? No, until we get to the final orders, you're not gonna know what the cost is because we have nothing to send to them and get an estimate of the cost right now, okay? On section C 202. I've given you a draft that if you don't have copies of it, it's pretty hard to review. But once again, I kind of, I changed shall to will throughout the document. I changed counselor, councilmen to counselors all the way through. And I've added the felony thing. I can say that it is hard to envision a felony that does not involve moral turpitude. Burglary, robbery,
Yeah.
Well, the reason we brought that up is I guess there was incidents in the past with counselors having certain things happen to them with police involvement. And
Well,
some individuals felt that triggered moral turpitude and others decided that it wasn't.
I have never in the past had to deal with a counselor who was convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. I can tell you that the definition of moral turpitude is maybe a little easier than the definition of pornography. And when the pornography stuff started at the Supreme Court of the United States, one of the justices famously said, I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it.
Yes.
Well, it's hard to regulate people's conduct in that manner, but take assault. Well, take OUI. We have had counselors in the past who have been convicted of OUI. In each case, the consensus has been that is not a crime of moral turpitude. If you get like 3 OUIs, you can be charged with felony OUI. But the change is you worded it, even though the man may have a disease called alcoholism and may not, him or her, be able to control their behavior, they're going to lose their council seat because they were convicted of a felony. And if that's your intent, or you think a felony is such a serious event that a person shouldn't serve on the council if they've been convicted of a felony, that's a determination for you folks, the council, and ultimately the voters make.
Well, I think that was our intent. That a felony rises to the level of constitutes council.
That's what I was getting at. I thought that's the direction.
And, once again, just understand what it says. Okay. You take assault. Somebody, has either had too much to drink or is very emotional or something, and he assaults someone, he or she assaults someone. That can be a misdemeanor. Or if the person inflicted some more serious injuries, it might be felony assault. One, even though he wasn't charged, a misdemeanor assault, he can continue. The other, because of the seriousness of the injuries, whatever, could be a felony. Now, the intent of the person might not be any different in those two incidents. I mean, we've all heard of cases in which people get in a fight. One person knocks the other person over. The back of their head hits a curb. Okay. Defense in that is always, I didn't mean to do it. And most people probably sincerely didn't. Okay. And that can be even a situation where somebody starts a fight, the other person gets the better of them, a counselor gets the better of him and whacks him. He falls over and hits his head. He could be charged with a felony. Now, he would have self-defense as a defense, but if the jury didn't agree with it, that person whose intent and so forth was no different than the misdemeanor assault is going to lose the person's
Yeah, but we're not making a judgment call there. If they're convicted, they're convicted. And that's up to lawyers and judges to decide.
Well, that's a good question. And the current and the draft do not address what you mean by conviction. Does that mean after the appeal? If the person appeals, after the appeal is decided, if they lose their seat when they're convicted by the court and they file an appeal and the court overturns it, that is retroactive back to the date of the conviction and wipes out the conviction. So the person,
They've only got so much time to appeal.
and if they appeal,
They have an appeal and we stay. We wouldn't, and
all right, so I need to put in after all appeals have been exhausted.
sure.
Okay. The other thing I added was, as far as I know, members of the council are not mind readers. How do you know when somebody's been convicted of a felony or more, a crime of moral turpitude? You don't. So I added a provision that has got to come to the council's attention, number one. And then, think about this, the council should really make a determination. Whereas Counselor so-and-so has been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude or a felony, therefore, that person's seat is vacant. And that person is no longer a council. You know, the stuff doesn't happen automatically. There's got to be a way to bring it to the council's attention and for the council to make a determination. This person's seat is vacant. Because, you have to be careful. If that person is convicted of a crime and their seat is vacant, and the town council doesn't find out about it for a year, when did the seat become vacant? When he was convicted or when you found out about it? If there were 4-3 votes during that year, and that person voted in the affirmative, not an affirmative is not, it was a 3-3 vote because his seat was vacant a year ago. That's when he was convicted. So once again, think about these issues, look at the draft I gave, and those are just food for thought. And
I have rather a stupid question then. I've never been arrested, so I don't know all of these processes. All I know is watching the national news. A conviction isn't appealed for 3 years. it takes 20 years now to put someone behind bars and finally they've run out of appeals. What is the process here and how long does that take?
Once again, a short period of time. File. Once you file the appeal, that's just another court case, and their schedule, the court schedule will determine how long that takes.
And I know you can't tell me exact, but I mean, is that another 6 months or is that another 2 years now?
Well, once again, it depends. Okay. And I would say it would be unusual name for a criminal appeal to take years. Would it take 6 months to a year? Okay. But once again, and, you know, it's a decision for you, the council of the public, to make. If the seat becomes vacant on the date you're convicted by a court, okay, and you declare that person's seat vacant, and you're either, or quite often, you're gonna have a special election. 6 months later, a year later, when the court process is over, court overturns that conviction. That person never should have lost their seat on the council because they
And that's why we're saying,
were. Okay, I'll add that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's issues involved.
lose the
You
seat
weren't
till their
aware of it,
appeals are
didn't
exhausted.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I have one other question about knowing.
When,
We have one counselor now, and I'm just using her for an example because I happen to know she has moved back to Millmarket after living in another state for quite a few years. If she had committed a felony where she was living, how would we know about it anyway?
Wouldn't matter because they can't live out of state.
Yeah, but she's now living in Millmarket.
Right.
You know who
You
I'm
have to
talking
be, you have to
about.
be a resident to run. You can't live in New York and,
But the felony was committed when she lived in New York. And
Mm,
she's
well-
moved back, just like I did. I moved back.
we
I
had
think
this
Dean
discussion.
was-
We don't care about prior felonies.
If I'm hearing Dean, what he's saying is the problem is you need to have a process in place to decide that. And what you're asking is, are we going to start vetting?
Yes,
all
that's
candidates.
exactly.
Well, normally, felony conviction, moral turpitude conviction, prior to the person being a counselor is not covered by our charter as it's worded today.
And that's what we were going with. We don't care about prior felonies because if they're elected, they're elected.
Right.
We
Depends
care
on what
about
it
if they're
is.
serving
and.
and they get a felony.
Okay,
Because we had this discussion in a prior meeting and that discussion came up. And there are some felonies that are way less morally than others, like murder, for example, or UI for 3 times, or, prior convictions, if they're elected by the taxpayer, then they're elected. But if they commit a felony while they're an elected official, then we go through this process.
And,
okay.
but you also, getting back to the process, you kind of have a problem if you think you're gonna wind up vetting an individual counselor. Because the question is, why are you after me? They didn't vet you, they didn't vet you. they
But
didn't
we're not
vet you.
vetting anybody. There's no vetting.
Yeah, they're elected. So.
If you get elected and you have a prior felony, we don't care. But if Louis commits a felony tomorrow and this charter is in place, then we go through the process that Dean's talking about. If they go to court and they get convicted, they vacate their seat, unless, of course, appeals and everything else. But if they come in with a felony, there's no,
We've had that history happen.
Right, well, there's a counselor now who has a prior felony,
There you go.
and he was elected, the taxpayers did not care. He made that very clear when he ran.
Right.
And he still was elected, so that, in the past.
Yeah.
People make mistakes.
Okay,
All right,
On 204. Current structure of the cutter and this suggested change really doesn't change that structure, but the structure is council is a legislative body. The town manager is the administrator of the town. And the council sets the budgets. Town manager does the hiring and firing. Now, when you look at the personnel policy right now, it does not have a provision for suspension with pay because some town employee, whether they be a department head or not, is under investigation for something, okay? Despite that, people are suspended without pay all over Maine because the hiring official lost confidence in their ability to discharge their duties until the investigation, which all investigations are allegations until whatever that process is has been completed. Now, they do this because a suspension with pay is not considered discipline. The person is not losing anything, okay? Essentially, they're having a paid vacation, okay? You have to keep that in mind, especially if the investigation goes on for 6 months, okay? But anyway, there are some other issues involved with that I'll give to you and we'll talk about those. I just think a change of this nature should be in the personnel policies charter. Personnel policy is contract. Really. Investigation or crime or any number of things, the person will be placed on administrative leave with pay by the town manager. Your purpose. Yeah, what you wish for, because the person goes through the investigation without no repercussions. Well, is it really necessary to suspend them? Okay, obviously, most of these suspensions involve allegations of crime. I think it was Ellsworth, it was an OUI. Okay, and that person was suspended with pay for one job, not the second, and then later they suspended him from the second, and then decided they terminated the person. But once again, we'll make whatever change you want to make. I want to make sure you understand the ramifications. Okay. 205, I sent you a draft on 205. And I worded
why
it.
don't we kind of give them an answer as we go along?
Well, Matt was gonna kind of put that in a revised document that he sent me.
I've already finished the document, so it's all in black. Some of them, I mean, we commented here to you now. Some of them have me thinking. This one though, 205, I haven't seen this is one that I haven't seen.
Well, I sent it earlier today.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance.
Okay, no problem. Once again, I made the change and worded it slightly different. And I took out the business about so many budget workshops and public hearings. I mean, what I said was that instead of the way it reads right now is you're gonna make changes to council compensation as part of the budget process. So like any spending, for the most part, is part of the budget process, as opposed to doing it by ordinance. Okay? Now, you just went through the ordinance process and in the end, you didn't prove it, that the council, and that was their decision. Okay? If we make it part of budget process, then somebody has to, if the public doesn't like that, they have to take that order, that budget order that includes your compensation and file a petition to overrule council action. Okay. Now, once again, you always have workshops on budget. You might decide in the future to have 3, 4 public hearings. Okay. So I don't think you should tie council's hands by specifying in the charter how many public hearings they're gonna have, how many workshops they're gonna have. You know, I don't know how you can do the budget without workshops.
Yeah, that was my big question, because the reason that was put in there is someone had mentioned that it would go across better to the public if it showed in there that there was going to be a process. And I agree with you. I think tying our hands is not, that's, we shouldn't do that.
Right. Right.
Then we'll go forward. Yeah, specific history.
Lily, I would like to call you. We have the press participating in this, and there's certain things I'd like you people to know that are interested.
Okay.
Pending litigation.
Correct.
Agreed.
These are
Let's
the,
talk about,
I think it's best that goes offline as well.
in the public meeting, I have no problem, Brian, participating at all.
Right.
Just,
Well, I have questions that I want to ask you similar to.
and we will take those up.
Yep.
Okay. 301, I sent you a draft. And I put in nautical miles. I just think regular miles. You know,
And I went to go back to look for why we did that. And I found the YouTube video, and I haven't had a chance to watch it. But Rick had mentioned something about Brewer. And if we did nautical miles, they'd be able to live from Presque Isle to Brewer, anywhere in between. But if we did regular miles, it would be certain sections of Bangor and would limit them to what they could buy. It was a ridiculous argument,
I
but
calculated it, it's 115 months.
yeah,
So if you, why not put 115 miles in there
right.
or 120?
The thing that got it to be nautical was, what if they're flying somewhere?
Oh, that's what it was.
It would extend the distance. Because if you're driving, you know, if you're on the back roads versus the highway, you know, it's.
You've addressed that. You've got so many nautical miles or within a safe commutable distance. Okay, so I guess the person would sit down with the council and say, I'm a private pilot, I can be up here in 45 minutes or, you know, whatever it is. Your union contracts, you don't have a radius, you have a response time.
Okay.
That's not something we want to change, but
I think safe commutable distance was a fair play to go with anyway. That's my opinion. The nautical miles thing didn't make much sense to me. I do agree that it needs to be extended outside the walls of Millinocket. Because of the lakes and stuff.
Yeah.
Dean made a point too, that it is kind of sticking with me. You don't want to be tying your hands too much with too much intricacy, because if you do, then it winds up being a problem that you're going, oh geez, we passed a law which now we can't do it. We can't do what we want to do.
Right, that's why I'm saying I think reducing it to a safe commutable distance is fair.
We all agree. Oh, that- okay, so we'll change.
Uh, 405 and 406. 406 is easy. I mean, state law specifies budget categories. So change the charter to be consistent with that. You know, that's not difficult.
Yeah, that's all we did. The school provided me how they outline theirs based on the
Yeah.
last. So we just updated it to read exactly what they had.
Well, and I think we should go on to say, and as required by state law, time to time. So if, once again, Augusta adds a line, retitles, does any kind of a change, we don't have to change the charter.
That's good. Anybody have any problems with adding that?
No. I think if it
So-
stops us from changing it in the future, yeah.
No. 405,
Well, I'm looking at. Before we, talk about 405, let's talk about 508. Major change number 8. I want to make sure everyone understands that,
yeah,
when this change takes effect on July 1st, the unencumbered balance you're looking at is whatever it was on June 30th, day before. That audit, December will be the earliest that audit will be available. Peter told me today, you just got the audit as of June 30, 2023. You can't use that unencumbered balance because it's a year old. It gives you no idea what your unencumbered balance is going to be on June 30th, 2024. Okay. Now, a high percentage of the school department employees elect to be paid over 12 months rather than 10. And the way they do their accounting, there's a payroll warrant from the school department every 2 weeks in July and August until school starts for those teachers who elected the 12-month compensation. And then, and I don't know if any of this was discussed in the school board or whether you talked, but, and once again, historically, in the month of August, they try to buy, as part of a bulk purchase, I guess, with other school departments or something, as many school supplies as they can. So if you tell them you can't use whatever your undesignated fund balance is on June 30 of 2024, starting July 1st, where is the money coming from? Pay those payroll warrants and to buy supplies in July and August.
So those aren't previously budgeted. So like if I'm a school teacher and I decide to elect for 12 months,
Yes.
the 3 months that I'm off or 2 months isn't already coming out of the payroll budget. It's coming out of the unassigned fund balance.
Now, what happens is on June 30th, whatever is under payroll that hasn't been spent
Right.
drops to undesignated fund balance.
Okay, I see.
And then the undesignated fund balance is a credit
Right.
towards the next year's budget. So they get, you know, the money comes back and you've approved the new budget. And and you'd have to talk to the school department. I think that payroll line is including the summer compensation.
Yeah, they were here. We had the superintendent and the treasurer here, and they both agreed with that change.
I don't think they
Um,
understood that change.
Okay, I don't think any of us did after I heard that.
And once again, usually, I don't know how big when they buy school supplies. I assume it's a fairly significant purchase. And I just want to make sure legitimate school department bills are paid when they're due.
Right.
Okay, and once again, we can, you know, in the past, not the current administration, the school department has gone from a $600,000 undesignated fund balance 2 years later, minus 600,000 undesignated fund balance. They essentially spent $1.2 million over 2 years, more than they budgeted. Okay. And, you know, once again, there's nothing to be gained by putting fingers, the town lived through. That's what it means.
So did you propose a recommended change for this one, or do you
Not
have?
yet, I
Okay.
wanted to talk to you folks.
And
And
we don't wanna disrupt the.
no, so let me play with these. You've got 2 or 3 changes to 405. Let me work on those.
Matt,
Send you a draft.
is, because I've never done a budget, is the school has the undesignated fund, but they use like a skip year? Is this what we're talking about?
So the money that the dean's talking about, once they've paid payroll and everything and the new year begins, if I'm correct, goes to the undesignated fund balance, but they can't use that money until it's audited.
But they don't use it because the way I understood Shelley Lane explained it was like this money that just came in for the 23 won't be used until the 25. They skip a year.
That's
What kind of money?
The undesignated fund.
Undesignated fund.
not, that was for the, foreign students.
Mm-mm, no, I don't think so. That was the, undesignated fund. That was what money was left at the end of the budget year.
So if it gets audited and it takes approximately 3 months to audit,
Under the best of circumstances.
Right.
You just got the audit as of June 30, 2023. I
And-
would call that 12 months.
and when we were lucky, like when I was running, we didn't get it till like August, September, and we thought that was pushing it.
But they
I
weren't
don't think it had
using
been
it.
Early.
Was it, or
I think
was it later?
November.
Oh, it was, yeah, it was around November, actually.
November's early, December's typical.
So it leaves room for buffer. If they don't get it audited till November, December, then they still can't use that money. So that's
But they don't use it in their budget
because they can't until it's audited,
until they skip a year and use it. in
because
the-
of how long the process takes.
You look at their budget. They would show as a credit against the budget, the undesignated fund balance. And the undesignated fund balance, you talk to the auditor, those are funds that simply aren't already committed for some purpose. It's a very important concept on the municipal side and the school side. That is the money to cash flow your operations on the town side until your tax revenue comes in, excise taxes come in, and so forth. Well, our taxes, the bills usually go out when? September? I'm sure you collect a lot of money in the next month, but you've got bills in July, August, September, until the tax revenue starts coming in. And the same thing on the school side, okay? The state aid, you know, if they get state aid, I don't think they get it July. I think it takes a while, especially if the state budget hasn't been set. Okay,
There's a lot of factors that play into it, but it's typically it won't get used because it hasn't, like everything Dean just explained.
So,
It
what I-
takes time.
so,
I'm
would it,
gonna-
would it be reasonable to understand that maybe like the process of for confusion would be because of how long it takes for everything to finalize is why it might seem like it's skipping a year, not so much that it's.
That,
Yeah,
no,
That it's
no.
not actually skipping a year, it just seems.
That it is. That is the term. I listen to every school budget or every school board meeting. And that is the term they use, that they.
Is it a policy over at the school that they can't use it for? I don't know what the school's
I
policies
don't
are.
know how you possibly could cash flow the school department without them using their undesignated funds.
Right.
They do, the net, like the
Sandy-
funds that,
Sandy, all I'm saying is, I don't understand. Maybe they do it. Maybe they're miracle workers over there, okay? But you have to have money to cover every single warrant that comes over here. You've gotta have funds in the bank to pay every bill, okay?
no, I'm just saying, but that is the term they use. And obviously, if I don't understand it, I need to listen more and have her explain it to me again.
Go right ahead, go over and meet with her. What constraints there are on.
That might be beneficial for all of us to know exactly what they mean by that. And then maybe we can word something around.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's on board to make a change.
Mhm.
We can find the middle ground.
And this issue was one of the drivers of this process for a lot of the councilors, the frustration with the school board and not understanding. And if this is not the mechanism for doing it, if this is not the process,
We need to
we
change
still
it.
need one.
Yeah.
We still need it.
I hope they. System. My knowledge.
It'll be a nice day.
Yeah, that'll be a nice day.
But yeah, I agree. Once we get final answers on that, we should revisit this. Maybe Dean can draft us something to better benefit both the school and the town.
Okay, on C601, the revaluation, once again, explain the process a little bit to you. I would say that in the early 2010, 2012, 2013, whatever, the administration was successful in having the council put $250,000 in the budget for revaluation. For any number of reasons, they never put the rest of the money in. At that time, once again, we're talking over 10 years ago, it was estimated to be $400,000, $500,000, or $600,000 to do a reval. And the reval that we need, and what the process that Lauren's going through right now, I'm not so sure is going to do all of this. Okay. But you look at every tax card, correct all of the information on it. Okay. And do a bunch of other changes, most important of which is valuation. Okay. Today, that's going to cost more than it did before. So once again, it's always been a budget issue. Now, if you want to put in the charter that they're going to do a revaluation every 10 years, we can put that in the charter, whatever you want to do. It's been a council issue in the past. They haven't, among their spending priorities, of which, Matt, you know, Wally, you've been on the council. You have many competing interests, and the budget document finally is what it is. It includes some things, it excludes other. And revaluation was always left behind the kitchen door. Okay? I think what you need is counselors who are motivated to be fair to everybody, the taxpayers, by having valuations that are fairly current. Okay, and of course, due to our economic turmoil in this area, value has been a difficult issue until quite recently.
That's for sure.
100%.
No stability.
And I think that's one of the reasons the council didn't put away the money and do the job.
That was kind of the driving driving change for this is, we were gonna put 10 years. But we thought, later down the line, if the state of Maine makes a change and they say, oh, you need to do it every 9 years. This would change with it, so we wouldn't have to change it in the future.
Well, let me talk with Lorna. I haven't had a chance to talk with her about this.
Okay.
But she will be very, very concerned about
Well,
what the change.
the point that we were trying to make is that it has to be done every 10 years.
Yeah.
Simply because we end up what we're going through now. 22 years, no revaluation. And you're getting to the point where the state's gonna do something with
Oh,
it.
I agree. And your tax maps, for instance,
Way outdated.
they have to be 20 years old. Okay, and there are probably lots that, the assessor,
Subdivided.
well, the assessor's taken the existing map and just, kind of traced on them. So, completely separate from the revaluation is some year doing new tax maps. Yeah, once again, let me talk with Lorna about that.
Okay.
See what she says. Municipal document review, once again, if you want to put that in the charter, you certainly can. If you want a time limit on the zoning ordinance, for instance, I would simply say it's probably easier to amend the ordinance to say the planning board will review this document in its entirety every blank number of years, whatever he feels appropriate. Okay,
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. Again, we don't want it to go. How long has it been since there's codes and laws in that book that make no sense.
well, we have
80s.
To the 80s.
on a comparative basis, a rather complicated zoning code, but it is prepared for any form of major development that you would have. It's there.
It was well done.
Yes, and we've always had kind of a fine balance. That zoning code would be difficult to go through and file an application without professional assistance.
Yes, and me and Bob met with you, and that was your recommendation, is instead of a committee going through it, have someone from outside go
Oh,
through it.
definitely.
Yeah,
And, you've got a relatively, your comprehensive plan is not that old, but it's a regional comprehensive plan, and I think Peter started the process to maybe go off on your own.
Yeah.
And once again,
See other partners and stuff.
yeah, and that was C one that Peter had talked and mentioned that should be updated, because once we're all long gone, that should still be a document that's continued to be updated. I didn't work on the comprehensive plan nearly as much as other people did, so I don't know what it entails or how long
Wow.
it takes to update.
once again, that can be accomplished in the comprehensive plan. So we add a section to it that says either the planning board or some other body will review this plan every 5 years or 10 years, whatever you think is appropriate. The comprehensive plan changes tend to be tied to the amount of activity you're having in town.
Right.
More activity, the more recent the greater the need to review the comprehensive plan and make sure your goals and so forth are fine, and then you amend the zoning ordinance to be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
So what you're recommending is we don't have it here. We have, all these changes would be listed.
Not in the charter. You don't normally see this level of detail in the charter of how often the assessment should be done on the zoning ordinance review or the comprehensive plan update. Those can easily be done in the ordinances themselves for the comprehensive.
My personal opinion for the committee is that it stays. I think it's important that it's outlined because of problems in
Well,
the
let me do
past.
it, I'll do a draft.
That, I'm just stating my opinion for them, but I would prefer it's in the charter. That way this doesn't come up 5 years down the road and they're like, well, why isn't it done? Well, they never added it to the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan, so nobody ended up making
Right.
that change. That's my concern, but
Well, of course, you people have been working on this for how long now?
yeah, a while.
Fortunately, and there was no reason for me here. Well, earlier than this, but I like to see people take their time on legal wording, make sure they're comfortable with it. So I like to do some drafts, send them to you. If we need to have another meeting, we'll have another meeting. And once again, before it goes to the council, we want to make sure you people are 100% comfortable with it. And both here and at the council level, one of the things to consider is any of these subjects I brought up, the public could bring up. Right. And you want to be prepared, make sure that your draft, you've got answers for this. It's just like adding the felony. Yes, we discussed that. We know it's serious, but felonies are serious crimes. If somebody commits that, their office should be vacant.
Office, yeah.
Okay.
So let me, if you can get me the copy.
Did you want to go back to the one that we skipped? 405, I think it was.
No, I'm gonna do a draft on 405.
Okay.
Does that take care of your directions from your two memos that you sent us?
Yes, I have adequate direction to do draft. And, yeah, here's. Would like. Nation with you.
I'll leave that, the one I got. You can write it down.
Transfer from the sheet, slide a piece of paper.
Maybe my number is updated. Has my number been updated before?
Get yours as 47765.
Okay.
Frank calling
Not very good order, but gauge. Where it is.
All right, I just sent you that finalized document without the colors.
Great. Well, I got yours.
Here. So. Guess you could give us a good idea of when the next meeting date.
Oh, I think we can meet in a couple of weeks without any trouble. And I think the question really is, when do you want to have a public hearing?
We have several changes to make, I think, based off
Yeah.
your feedback. I think once we get your drafts, we've had time to review them.
Sure.
I think public hearing is probably the last thing on my mind.
Right. Well,
Especially the school piece.
Like you said. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, council can act at the end of the public hearing.
Okay.
So, then a month later, you're gonna have. There is a danger if you have the public hearing too soon, it drops out of the public mind. And they're just not focused on it when the election comes. I don't know if that helps you or hurts you, but having uninformed voters vote on issues is probably worse than having informed voters vote on issues.
I have a strange feeling that's what's gonna happen anyway, but
I agree with you.
But when you have a vote, it passes or it doesn't.
Yeah,
So our regular meeting time would have been Monday. I think that's what we used to have Mondays.
Mondays are better for me. Is that too soon?
I think it probably is.
Then
And I don't know exactly when, but after August 8th, I need to fly to Montana and drive back, which is probably going to take 4 or 5 days. And as soon as I know those days, I'll let you know. But, you know, if we can't do it on the 5th, I would say,
What about the 16th? Would that,
I think the 16th will work. Well, the 19th.
the 9th, okay.
Yeah. You've got the 5th is a Monday, the 12th, and then the 19th, I think. If we have the meeting.
This is August.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the-
August 19th, then I think everything will work out.
it's 5:30 better.
Me personally.
So 19th, 5:30 would be.
So what, for the counselor, or yeah, counselors, for the committee, Dean had asked me to take the final draft that we had, just so you guys are aware there is a copy now. Of our charter without the blue and red strikes. So it looks as if it is a regular document, except it says draft on the back and it's all in black ink. Just so you're aware, that is now a thing. I wasn't planning on doing it until we were completely done, but I do have that if any of you want it. It's now available. As if it were, yeah, if they pass it tomorrow, hypothetically, then it would be ready for it. Just I'd have to remove the watermark.
Right, and I need that to put in each order.
Sure.
Right.
If you look at the draft orders, the first page decides to send the thing out. Second page is the public hearing notice. And then the third page is what the council votes after public hearing.
And if we accept your drafts, I could just simply drag and drop them in to make the changes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's a few things.
Right, right. It's wonderful having a digital copy now.
They're helpful.
Anything else on the agenda, or is that it?
This is interesting to me because it's clear that there are a lot of things we need to take care of, but it's also clear that there are probably better ways than doing it in the charter for a few of the things.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is our charter has been in effect since 1969. There have been amendments to it. There are. To me, it has stood the test of time with no major problems. Okay. My perspective, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But things like making it gender neutral, tweaking things based on recent experience. That's what the process is there. No problem with it at all. And, you know, as long as you consider the issues, you make your recommendation, then the council's gonna exercise their judgment. Ultimately, the voters.
I think the problem with the current counselors is that there were frustrations with no tools to handle them. And so
Mhm.
I think some of the things we added, not only give them the tools, but if they need to reference something or fall back on something, this gives them the ease to do it.
There is a reason why personnel issues of the town manager and not the council.
Yeah, that one I agree with. I'm not completely sure how I feel about the whole thing. on that one.
Well, please. Very happy to have their future be a political football.
Yeah.
Okay. And the structure we have is the same as in what's called the town manager form of government. If you don't have a charter, you have select. The town can vote to adopt the town manager form of government. And under that, just as under our charter, personnel issues, hire, fire, goes to the town manager. much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Too bad that we have to put it in the paper like that. We can't just say,
Any state law,
yeah,
and would say that you're certainly gonna get better public distribution through the local paper than on your website or
I think Facebook is gonna be the best way to get this out. I know some people don't agree with that, but
Well, you can
there have
do
been
that.
times we've had hundreds of people see it.
You can do that in addition.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just like your red line. Putting that on Facebook is no problem with it. Anything that gets the information out there is a good thing.
Turn 6:40.